So, greetings and welcome to today's educational program, Can Quality Save the Planet by Willy Vandenbrande. This is your moderator, Doug Wood, with ASQ's Quality Management Division. I want to remind you this talk is a joint effort between the Quality Management Division and the Energy and Environmental Division of ASQ. So today we have the distinct pleasure of hearing from Willy Vandenbrande. Please join me in welcoming him. I'm going to give you some information about him. So he is the founder and president of QS Consult, a European consulting agency that assists organizations in various aspects of quality management. He has delivered presentations at many international conferences and has written numerous articles on quality management. Willy holds a master's degree in civil engineering and a master's degree in total quality management. He holds a Six Sigma Black Belt certification from ASQ. Willy is also an ASQ Fellow and an academician of the International Academy of Quality, IAQ. Within IAQ, he is the Vice Chair of Quality in Planet Earth Concerns think tank. In 2019, he was awarded the ASQ Jack Lancaster Medal for outstanding leadership in promoting quality worldwide. And so, without further ado, it is my pleasure to introduce Willy. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Doug, for your kind introduction. Good day, ladies and gentlemen. Hello to everybody, wherever you are and whatever the time is. I'm very happy that you're joining me for this webinar, as already announced by Doug, titled Can Quality Save the Planet? Now, generally, when a presentation has a title with a question mark, you will have a big expose and a lot of reasoning and arguments, and then at the very last slide, the answer will be revealed, so the ta-da moment. However, today we will do this quite differently. And actually, I'll immediately give the answer, which may be a little bit disappointing as well, on the next slide. And the answer is no. Now, why can't quality save the planet? First of all, because that's not really necessary. In fact, the planet was here long before us, and I'm pretty confident it will be here long after us as well. Maybe, a slogan like "Let us save the planet" is an example of what I would call human arrogance. Actually, there's a Dutch biologist, I think, who called Homo sapiens sapiens an ape with an attitude. So we have to be careful what our possibilities are. And the second reason why we will not save the planet is because it really is not possible for one group of people with one type of specialized knowledge to solve the very complex problems that we are faced with generally, actually, on a societal level. Many of you have heard this nice word, VUCA, volatile, uncertain, ambiguous, which are 3 times more or less the same, but also complex. And complex problems have their own peculiarity. One of them is, for instance, something that will sound a bit strange to quality specialists. Promise not to shoot me. Root cause thinking leads to nowhere. What do I mean with that? Belgium, for example, has a big traffic problem. And we all know the root cause. It's too many cars at the same time in the same place. And yet it does not get solved, despite knowing the root cause. In fact, what you sometimes see is that we long for simple solutions that don't work with complex problems. So anybody who has a good idea about doing something about traffic jams, as soon as he utters that idea, the next question the journalist will ask is, will this now solve the problem? And of course it won't. So we have to be a little bit humble. We can't save the planet, but there are things that we can do. But before we go into that, I want to start with the big picture on sustainability. And a good way to start a big picture is with a definition. Now, the definition you see here was launched in 1987. It's the Brundtland definition from the United Nations, and I'll read it out. Sustainable development is development that meets the needs of the present generation without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. Now, some words here are in red, and the reason why these are in red is because, in my view, they are the words that make this not a very good definition anymore. And why is that? Well, first of all, it says present generation, future generations, and what is meant is generations of people. Homo sapiens sapiens. Some people may know or have heard of Hans Rosling, who unfortunately recently died. He's a Swedish doctor statistician, and he has made amazing videos, and you should check them out on YouTube. One of them, I think the title is 200 Years, 200 Countries, 2 minutes. And in 2 minutes you will see how well the world is doing, or rather how well people are doing on that world over the last 200 years. And on the graph on the right, you can see that humans are doing very well since 1800 until now, but the other graph in orange shows the extinction rate of other species, and that's going very fast as well. So we have to be careful when we talk about generations. If we're only looking at people, we may do well, but we may be losing a lot at the same time. So that's one problem. The second problem deals with the needs, because of course there's an infinite amount of needs that one could think about. Since the corona crisis, we obviously know that needs are very limited, pasta and toilet paper, and that's pretty much it. But I will come back to this towards the end of my talk to indicate why this could be a problem towards sustainability. Now, based on these, in my view, weaknesses, I came up with another alternative. I call it a better alternative. I'm also one of these apes with an attitude, I guess. Sustainability means that the present generation takes the necessary actions to pass on our unique ecosystem to the next generation in a better state than it was received. And actually, before I came up with this definition, I did some publications, and the publications were titled Quality of All Life, indicating the impact of quality on there. Now, we cannot save the planet, but we can do a major contribution from quality in passing on our unique ecosystem to the next generation in a better state than it was received. And actually, the objective of this presentation is to show you how this could be done, what could be done, and what role quality can play in there. And in my view, especially within organizations, that's an important role. Now, back to the big picture again. What can we do? We can promote sustainability as quality of all life, and we can obviously contribute. We can contribute as individuals, like all individuals can, but we can also contribute as quality professionals within our organization. And it is this last point that will be key in the presentation. So now back to the big picture. If you talk about sustainability, one of the best known elements of it are the Sustainable Development Goals, or SDGs as they are well known. 17 goals that cover pretty much everything. Here you see human needs, you see social needs, but you also see environmental needs, climate action, life on land, and so it's a very big and very, very nice framework. Now, of course, this is the world of NGOs, United Nations, governments. It results in political agreements. A good friend of mine and another member of the IAQ think tank that Doug mentioned at the start is Lars Sökvist. And Lars tends to call this macro sustainability, sustainability at the highest level. And it's very much about goals and targets and reporting and follow-up and that sort of thing. Fundamentally, goal setting is not that difficult what is difficult is to achieve the goals. So all the actions that need to follow. So this macro image is extremely important to get a perfect overview. But of course, to really get improvement, we need action. And we need to turn these macro things into a more micro scale of sustainability. And these organizations also try that. There's a very important, interesting network called the Sustainable Development Solutions Network from the United Nations, where there are organizations, universities, companies that try to come up with ways of improving sustainability, and they also share best practices and so on. So this is happening. We have science-based climate targets. Some people may know that as well, which is a method so that your climate targets stay in line with the targets of the Paris Agreement. And generally you see an effort to translate macro-scale views to micro-scale actions. It's quite in line with one of the slogans that actually at the beginning of globalization was very popular, and it said, think globally, act locally. This is sort of what you see here. Now the question is, up till now, are we successful in making that translation and then getting these actions going so that we have a better chance of reaching the high level targets? My general view is, well, we could do a lot better. I think that there are a lot of publications, there's a lot of material available, there's loads of goals and targets, of course, within the SDGs even, but I feel the actions are lagging. Second, the actions that you do see, and then specifically within the industrial world, is very much oriented towards large corporations. And I have to say, this is not true for every corporation. Many really mean well, but you still see a lot of nice words. You also see a lot of marketing. And I'll refer to one of the latest scandals, so to say, on environmental sustainability in that case. And that was Dieselgate. Now, believe me, Volkswagen has a mission, a vision, and values. And in there, you will find care for the environment, and you will find sustainability. And in the values, they will talk about honesty, and they will talk about openness, and all that sort of thing. And yet, there's Dieselgate. All in all, I think there are two major problems to get it really going. The one is this sincerity issue, I think we still need to work on, but I'm not going to talk about that tonight. The other one is the fact that there's a large group of organizations that is not or hardly reached. And that is the large group of small and medium enterprises that really lag behind in this, that are maybe also a little bit left behind. Now, why would this be? And I have come up with 4 reasons, sort of. The first one is understanding of the concept. The fact that people are not very knowledgeable about what sustainability really is. For instance, and you will see that later on when I give a little bit more explanation to the model, there is something like financial sustainability, environmental sustainability, and social sustainability. And typically when people hear sustainability, they only think about the environmental part. So there's lack of knowledge. The second element is one that I think is also valid for every individual. Too big a task, too small the impact. If you look at sustainable development goals, goal number 2 is zero hunger. So here I am, the CEO of a company with 20 people. I say, let's do something about the SDGs, and I take SDG 2, zero hunger. Now, of course, I agree. I don't want people to go hungry, but how on earth will I make this go away? It is a thing that I think also works on an individual level. What does it matter that I do? The third reason is, and that's an important one, it's actually related to the financial sustainability issue. We already have so many things to do, especially in small organizations. We have ISO, we have other certifications, we need to obey all sorts of legal requirements, and now on top of all that, we need to do sustainability, and immediately it is seen as a cost. Now, I want to already make a remark here. If we call sustainability a cost, it'll never work. Back to that later. And the last reason, and I think rightfully so, is the things that I read when I say there's a lot out there. What I read is very complex. Most actions are beyond my means as a small organization. I mentioned the science-based climate targets for a small organization. This is really very, very complex. So that's a serious problem. And actually, there's research more or less confirming the causes that I just mentioned. This is research from, well, the abbreviations are the University of Antwerp, the Amsterdam Management School, and Leuven School of Management. And they asked companies a lot of things about the SDGs, but one of the questions was, what are the barriers for adopting it? And as you can see, the high barriers are things like we don't see any advantages in that. Our internal stakeholders don't see advantages in it. Look at financial resources. This is somewhat a barrier and high barrier. So you do feel that many, many companies feel a lot of restraints to start with anything related to SDG or even sustainability at a lower level. Now, how can we turn that around? How can we turn it? We look at the causes and we see at what we can do about them. The first one, not enough knowledge, provide knowledge. So educate and explain. What is sustainability? What is financial sustainability? Make people understand that this is not something that is far-fetched, but that is really important for their own organization. And also it means this will be an investment, and I will show you some examples that it's an investment with a high return. Secondly, that's the impact. There is strength in numbers. A massive amount of small contributions really has a big impact. We need to go back to simple basic math. If you save a little bit of energy at home, you may say, well, I hardly notice that in my electricity bill. But if 20 million people do that within the US, that does make a difference. The third one is crucial for this presentation, and that was, we already have so many things to do, this is going to cost us money, this is where the investment comes back again. You need to integrate that. You're a small organization, you know you don't need a sustainability department. Actually, you most likely have people or a department there that's busy with quality, and they are perfectly placed to start out sustainability movements within your organizations. And they will bring you money, not cost you money. That's what I hope to prove with the model I will present in a few minutes. And finally, but this is true for anything you do, wherever you work, whatever you do, is keep it super simple. Make it easy. Look at action-based items and very much adapt it to the means and the current state of the organization. Now, in the next 20 minutes or so, I will try to convince you that quality is perfectly placed to lead sustainability within an organization. But before we do that, I would like you to think for yourself for a moment, how are you doing at the moment within your organization? What is the current role of quality functions, the quality department in sustainability? We don't do a poll here in view of timing and to avoid technical glitches, but you have the possibility of saying we do nothing, we're slightly involved, we're heavily involved, or we're even leading. Anything that has to do with sustainability will start from us. Now, by coincidence, just 2 days ago, I gave the same webinar for a London-based quality organization, and there were about the same number of people, and they voted, and I can give you their voting result. 12% said we do nothing, 43% limited, 29 heavy, and 16 leading. So, you know, the 29 plus 16 is 45, so that's already quite good. So let's hope you guys also are already quite good. But if you're not, I hope I can help you a little bit with the model I'm presenting here. Now it's titled AAA Sustainability, but what it really is a matrix that links sustainability status with the pillars of sustainability and the quality methods and tools. And the idea is that when you start, your first thing you need to do is create awareness. When you have awareness and people understand that there is no contradiction between sustainability and profitability, and that the financial sustainability of the organization will thrive by working on sustainability, you can set a next step towards a more strategic approach, an adoption phase, where you will have sustainability as the guiding force for the future. And finally, you can get an achievement state, a sort of a holistic sustainability, where sustainability is really driving the entire organization on a value base even. Now you will see that as you go through this model, as you progress, you will go, as far as focus is concerned, from a focus on financial sustainability to get started, to a focus on environmental, to finally an overall encompassing system. Now, we'll go into detail on these very different statuses and the links with quality. But why do I say that quality is perfectly placed to do this, to implement a model like this in an organization? Because if you look at this step by step, this is actually the way quality has been running into an organization, has developed itself. Let's look at the key sentences here. Operational. Most companies start their quality efforts within the operations. Only later on it becomes strategic, and when it is strategic, it becomes company-wide. And the next step we do is to expand our quality views and methods and functions and tools outside of our own walls. We look at suppliers, we look at customers, we look at the surrounding of our company, so we become much more holistic in our approach towards quality. So in the same way, this is an almost natural way of developing sustainability within an organization. And there is another thing, and a very important thing. That is, in the awareness phase, this operational phase, we move a false contradiction between sustainability and profitability. Should ring a bell with many quality professionals. Because many of us have been fighting this battle already in the past. It's a battle we know. It's a battle we fought. It's the battle to remove the false contradiction between quality and profitability, between quality and the speed of production and so on. We know all about this. Actually, the Japanese told us when they started with TQM how there is no better way than the right way, the good way, the quality way. One of the first things I learned when I entered quality, and for a long time ago, was it is equally expensive to make a good part as it is to make a bad part. So there's absolutely no point in making bad parts. So we know how to do this, and actually this awareness phase is something that I think many of us do day in, day out, real actions without realizing it. Because today, what we are doing, our contribution to the organization is to strengthen its financial sustainability by improving quality, by reducing waste, by making customers more happy. We do improvement projects using several tools from low level to high level, and these improvement projects bring money. They increase the financial sustainability. But very often, they have a direct influence as well on the sustainability of the organization, on other elements of sustainability, typically on environmental sustainability. A couple of examples. We reduce reject and scrap, which means we need less raw material, which means we save money, but it also means we put a less heavy environmental burden on the outside world by needing less raw materials. We reduce energy consumption, which saves money, but which also could mean that we reduce exhaust of greenhouse gases, which is good for the environment. The only problem we're having today is we are sometimes ourselves not enough aware of the good things we do, and how when we present projects like that, it is very easy to add the sustainability aspect of it. And remember when I said you have to see this as an investment. In fact, investments towards an increased sustainability, for instance by reducing raw materials, energy and others, will bring money today. I promise you it will bring more money tomorrow and in the future, especially from a point of view of reduced cost and avoided cost. Let me give you a simple example, a resource that we all have always took for granted, water. Water is everywhere, it is cheap, and I once heard this at a keynote speech in a world conference: when it's cheap, it gets wasted. Now, what is happening today is that you have to start putting question marks next to the cheap. Let me tell you something. I recently made a study of the price of water in Belgium, actually specifically in the region where I live, Flanders, Bruges. I know how much do I pay for water. The speed with which the water price increases is 3 times as high as the average price increase. 3 times as high. So if you do a project today, operationally, that means you use less water in your process, this is good for the environment, it'll bring you money, but it will also be an extremely profitable investment toward the future. And once this is seen within an organization, now you will start thinking strategically, because what is strategy? Strategy is preparing for the future. And preparing for the future will mean preparing to become more sustainable than you are today. To focus on reducing harm, in that way create extra benefit financially, and that way make sustainability a strategic issue. Now it becomes incorporated in mission, vision, and objectives. Okay? I think personally, once you've got the awareness going, actually, the first thing you need to do is you yourself be aware of what contributions you already do, and then talk about it, and use it to show the rest of the organization what benefits can come from that. Once you have this within the culture, the next step will become simple. Once people see the benefit, the barriers to work on it disappear. That is what we must aim for. Communication is one of our biggest jobs anyway. Okay. Important in this area is to expand from the operations to the overall organization. And I think one of the areas, and it's a sort of a basic point with me, one of the areas where quality needs to put much more emphasis on is on design, on development of new products and new services, because that's where the future lies, and we have to make sure that these new products and new services are suited for the future and are automatically also more sustainable than what we do today. So looking at improving design will be a very important one in this adoption phase. Using tools like Design for Six Sigma much more, not just problem solving, using things like TRIZ, theory of inventive problem solving, expanding Lean and TPM beyond the operation, that sort of thing. Now, the next stage, ultimate stage, the achievement stage, which is sort of a holistic quality. This is, you know, a little bit of a dream. I would be very, very happy if all companies would come to the adoption stage filled into the maximum. That would already be really wonderful. The holistic sustainability stage would be even better, but that will be something that will not only require changes within organizations, but also changes in industry and actually in society as a whole. This is where the SDGs become the basis for full social responsibility. They become the drivers for what we do, how we make a living, and how we live together. Now, it means when I say we need to think about entire systems then to come there, I'll take an example to illustrate that. Again, we can do an awful lot and we must do an awful lot. And I know all of you are capable of making serious steps in the right direction. But we are living within an overall system, and that has an influence in itself, of course. So let's look at SDG 13, which is called climate action. It's actually the only SDG that has the word action in it, which is kind of nice. And obviously we're talking about global warming. And some extremely important people, much more important than I am, have been talking about global warming and have had their organizations work and do studies on it. So here you see on the left Mr. Ban Ki-moon, who used to be Secretary General of the United Nations. You have Ms. Christine Lagarde, who is now with the European Central Bank, who was at the time at the head of the International Monetary Fund. You have the OECD that does a lot of studies on this. And basically, all of their studies have come up with a statement that global warming is a threat to the economy. In fact, I think it's OECD, I'm not 100% sure here. They made a prediction that by 2050, if we don't do anything, about 25% of the economy would have to be spent on combating the consequences of global. Now, as a quality specialist, I always wonder, yes, but what is cause and what is effect? There's another very important man to the right here on the screen, which is Mr. Gutierrez from Portugal, the current Secretary General of the United Nations, and who very regularly displays notes saying that guys meaning all the countries in the world, you urgently need to do something about the Paris Agreement goals. You need to go to action because they are becoming unattainable. Actually, most specialists say they already are. Because what you see in the real world is that in the past 25 years, only in 2009, greenhouse gas emissions decreased. Now, 2020 will also be a very good year for greenhouse gas emissions. They will also decrease. Why? Because 2009 and 2020 will both have had and will have a very, very serious economic crisis. This should make us think, I believe. Personally, I feel like the economy has shifted over the last 50 years from an economy fulfilling the needs of the people to the people now having to fulfill the needs of the economy. There must be a reason why they call us human resources. And that is a shift that I think at some point in time, a chain we will need to break and rethink, because population growth and economic growth, making climate action almost a lost battle. Actually, by the end of 2010, the little gain from 2009 was completely erased, and it could well be that the same will happen after 2020. So what I see happening is that the economy is fueling the global. And there is some truth in what Sir Willy Vandenbrande is saying here. Anyone who believes in indefinite growth on a physically finite planet is either mad or an economist. With my apologies to the economists in the audience. Now, of course, serious crisis is also an opportunity. Never waste a good crisis. And this is another thing I want you to think about. I'll give you the results of the poll I did with the UK organization there. There's a lot of talk about, the post-COVID society, or even the post-COVID economy will be different than the pre-COVID economy. Different meaning it'll be more focused on sustainability, it'll be more focused on circular economy, short change, not the very long value change and deliveries all over the world, and so on and so on. There will be more working from home, which is probably true. But I don't know if this is really true. So the question is, and just think about that a little bit for yourself. How do you feel this? Do you think, well, it sounds nice, but in the end, nothing will change? By 2022, it'll be business as usual. Or you say, well, maybe a few things will change for the better, like maybe working from home a little bit. Or you're more on the positive side, say a lot will change. Or even you believe everything will change after the COVID crisis, a new economy will emerge that will be much, much more sustainable. So you think about that for a second. And let me give you the results from the poll I did with people in England. And actually, it was an extremely symmetrical division. It's amazing because 4% of the people said nothing will change. 46% said only a few things will change. So that's 50% of the audience. The audience was about the same size as what you were. The other 50% was more positive. 45% said, we think a lot will change. And 5% said, everything will change. So we had an equal, positive, negative, optimist, pessimist view. I will give you, as the last part of the content here of my speech, I will give you my 2 cents. I tend to, unfortunately, I have to say, I tend to go a little bit to the pessimistic side. I think things will change, but not that much. The things I hear today are very much focused again on volume and not necessarily on quality. I think we should shift our economy from more to better. And I don't hear that enough today. So I'm afraid we will have a 2009 revisited. And actually, something you see is that because of the depth of the economic crisis, and there is something to say for that, I understand that, but because of the depth of the economic crisis, you see people saying, yes, but okay, now we have more serious problems than this EU Green Deal, for instance, or the climate agreement. So you see sustainability actions and targets being shifted backwards. That's not a good sign, I think. But let's hope I'm wrong, and let's hope that things are better. I refer here to this Tyrannosaurus Rex, who sees the meteor, and the first thing he thinks is, oops, there goes the economy, whereas in fact, there he went, of course. So I don't know, let's hope that the 50% that saw it positive will be right, and that we do get a change in that direction. Now, before I turn it back over to Doug, who will run the question session, just a couple of additional notes. First of all, what I have been talking about has recently been published as an article in the Journal for Quality and Participation. And people interested in that, send me an email and I'll send you a PDF of that article. Secondly, I've also created, some years ago, as I said, I started by thinking about sustainability with quality of all life. And for a conference that was in Budapest, I think in Hungary, I created this poster on quality of all life. If people are interested in that, again, you can get a PDF copy from that. And with that, I want to thank you very, very much for spending this hour with me, for listening to my webinar. I hope you enjoyed it. And thank you very much. I am now open for questions. Doug will run that. And as already said, we will not be able to tackle all questions probably, but you can always contact me by mail. I will be glad to answer your questions. Thanks again.
Thank you, Willy. That was wonderful. I really appreciated that.
Thank you, Doug.
In the chat window, we did add a link to gapminder.org, Hans Rosling's website.
Yeah.
So people can go there if they wish. So we do have a couple of questions, and while others are, putting the questions in the Q&A window, I'll start off here with the first one. So one question, and this gets right to quality, all right? And I'm going to add something to it. Ricardo asks, how will Industry 4.0, and I would add Quality 4.0, revolution affect sustainability in the short run? Would it help?
I have a sort of a double answer. This is the perfect consultant answer. It depends. But yes, it can help. For instance, when I talked about material and reducing material, one of the things you see, and this is driven by Industry 4.0 and mainly digitization, is that we see products being replaced by services. Music industry is typical. They used to use tons and tons of vinyl and then later silica to get music into your house. Today we stream it. In the same way, I think, the transportation industry today is car producing. I think in the future it would be transport offering. And that will mean less cars will be needed. Actually, I'm amazed at cars, but I can't blame anyone because I have a car myself. But, a car is probably the least efficient piece of equipment ever invented. If you had a process running like a car in your factory, you would throw it out and ask somebody else to give you the service immediately. It's a sort of equipment that works for 1 hour a day. So, there's huge potential in replacing product by service. So this is definitely a good thing. And also, if you think about manufacturing 4.0, quality 4.0, you'd get less and less rejects, you'll get less and less rework, you'll get better and better and better products. So that's also helpful. The one thing we must not forget, however, is that information is running on systems, and the systems are running on electricity. And I think we sometimes underestimate the amount of energy that is needed to keep this whole information system running. I think that's something that we need to think about. That would be on the negative aspect of sustainability. So I was in December, I was still in China at a conference, and someone gave the analogy. He said, the human body brain is only 2% of the weight of the human body, but it consumes 20% of the energy. I think this is something similar that we need to take into account with our information technology. So that could be a bit of a drawback. We may underestimate that.
Okay, thank you. If I could just add a thing to that, the Industry 4.0, Quality 4.0, a lot of it depends on electronics and electronic circuits and the Internet of Things and all these devices which essentially are creating. I have a whole closet full of useless electronics. They can't be recycled. I have no idea where to send them. So that's another sustainability issue. Okay, so we got a couple more here. Here's a good one. Are there common metrics for sustainability?
Well, actually, if you would look at the SDGs, of course you have the main title, but every SDG is then separated in subdivisions. Of course, this is country-oriented, so that may be difficult to directly apply to an organization. But it could be, I think there are 169 targets in there, so it could be a source of information. The science-based climate targets give you a specific way of calculating your impact on the atmosphere, global warming. So that's one that can be used. But of course, personally, I think that the thing to do is to look at, to try and note your sources of impact, and then create your targets to make sure that things are very much focused to your environment. As a consultant, I have noticed, I do a lot of trainings, and in the trainings I give a lot of examples from various industries that, you know, people in there will always say, yeah, in the car industry, yeah, in the carpet industry, yeah. But we, in our industry, are extremely special and extremely different, and nobody is like us. And they're probably right and not right, but I think it'll speak more towards your people internally if you can look at what do we do and where do we want to end up. I think there are some metrics to be found, and of course they will talk about especially energy consumption. They'll talk about raw material use. They'll talk about anything that you need to dump or get away with. I would advise you to think about things that are maybe cheap today. I gave the example of water, but don't underestimate that. Anything that has to do with impact on environment or other things will become more expensive. So definitely don't forget these.
Okay. I did put a link in the chat window on the Sustainable Development UN SDGs, so people can go into that chat window. They can copy and paste that link out if they wish. Okay, so here's another question. Is there an initiative anywhere worldwide, perhaps a startup, on sustainability in the nuclear arena? I assume nuclear energy.
Yeah. I don't know. I know, of course, every company in the nuclear world will have its own sustainability program running. But whether there's a general approach, I don't know. I guess the International Atomic Energy Agency would be the logical place to look for first. But I'm not at home enough in that world to know that. They would be, I guess, the people to contact first to see, is there anything like that, or did you guys publish anything on that topic?
Okay. So we've got a couple more questions here. One of them, do you have any idea how regulations can best be used to address some of these shortcomings?
Sure. How would you interpret the question, Doug?
how can regulations best be used to address these shortcomings?
Regulations as in externally imposed?
That's the way I would interpret the question.
Yeah.
Regulations coming from a government, an agency, a state level.
Yeah. Well, of course they would have it. I mean, if you have to work within the law. So it is clear that countries that have put severe legislation on exhaust and that sort of thing, noise levels to the environment and so on, make bigger improvements. It may not be the right motivation, but of course it does work because it's imposed. It is obviously better if you can be ahead of these regulations. Because one of the risks you run in waiting for regulations is that they could be a lot more stringent than you had anticipated. And then you could get in a serious problem. So it is better to think yourself ahead. I talked about the water price, but another example is a CO2 tax. So it's not about if, but it's about when will there be a CO2 tax and how high will it be. So if you think, oh, it'll still be 50 years before they come up with something, and it'll probably be only a few cents per ton, and all of a sudden there's legislation of a couple of dollars per ton, and in 2025, you could be in serious problems. So yes, legislation can drive a lot, and if you're a smart organization, you prepare yourself ahead of that. It'll save you money anyway.
Okay. So we have another question here. It has to do with, granted that these goals were laid out gradually, the Paris Accords, and we don't seem to be meeting them or heading for them well. Should dramatic effects be felt in our society, do you believe that there will be a strong acceleration of the interest in driving these changes towards sustainability? In other words, are things going to happen faster because they haven't been acting very well in the last decade?
Probably. I mean, we can react very fast, as this COVID crisis is showing. The big problem with global warming is that it goes slow, and we don't feel it in one big splash. Yes, I think you are right. If all of a sudden certain really serious things happen, and actually they're already happening, but we don't see them enough, yes, that will be a reminder, and we will do a lot of things. The problem, I think, with that is that at that point in time, when these things start happening, an awful lot of the investment will have to go towards fighting the consequences. And that may mean that preventing it from getting worse might not speed up enough, even then. So that's a big risk. And I'll just tell you a little story. I travel a lot, and I was in Ecuador once, and you're up in the Andes at 4,000 meters, and you talk to a farmer there. And the first thing the farmer talks to me about is global warming. Why? Because he lives off the land. He sees how the climate is changing and how what he gets off the land is getting smaller and smaller and causing a problem for his income. So yes, if serious things happen, we will react, but it's such a damn shame, isn't it?
Okay. Well, this has been a wonderful talk. Willy, I want to thank you for doing this for us. We want to wind up here with a couple more things, just kind of close things off. Thank you, all of you, for asking your questions and so on.